Hello and
Hello
welcome.
and welcome. Oh, there you go. Right. Sorry, I missed that call. Sorry, that was my bad
we,
there. But welcome
we
to Take the Throne Week 7. How you doing, Ryan?
we were like, this is going to be a big week. This is great for EU. It's going to be a monster time. The Kings are dead. Fish 1-2-3 were down last week from Team Hip Hip. This is like the Game of Thrones now, and we have to give it style. So what a brilliant start! But we are going to start with the who's going to be going up against the winners of last week, the Kings Hip Hip Hip. It's going to be, interestingly enough, worst players versus Team Turkey. Worst players actually winning Twitch rivals in the EU group number two, the more like Central Europe teams with like teams like Turkey involved. And Team Turkey did okay in the G2 invitationals, but not as well. So this is basically like a couple of Russian players, Turkey, the yonder end of Europe, playing in this game up against the French later on.
Fantastic. We'll see what they have in store for us. We're going to be on Haven this time around for the best of one. Of course, the winner of this best of one going on to face Hip Hip Hip, and the map selection will not be Haven in that best of three as well. So that will carry over. There'll be the other maps up for grabs.
And I'm already excited to see what kind of play. I haven't really seen much of Team Turkey. I just know of them because the Turkish scene is super loud. Wants everybody to know that Turkey is the best region, and they had a good showing. It's nice to see that this team from a show match, really, that's what you want to call it, is stuck together, playing consistently, and they're involved in this event. I'm excited to see what they do. Worst place, another team that's actually been doing pretty well. So this is a colossal fight.
Holding out pretty passive for now, except for Dinasak, who's pushed all the way up, and so is Paura, sorry. And they are going to be able to get first face. An aggressive push up towards A leaves the defenders a little bit open, and in fact, they might want to just continue to push on this. With Sage there, she will be able to stall it out as the defense currently investing quite a lot of presence over towards that B site as well. Both Brim and Ray's holding out there, but Ray's rotating over to A as well.
Yeah, they're trying to bolster this A site. They think they're going to get hit pretty hard, but it's all going over to double doors. You can see the Sova undecided on how he wants to position himself, knows that it's open, knows it can be exploited. So the Eldred is going to scout out, catch quite a lot. We'll see this rotation come in from Turkey, you'd assume.
Flashpoint out will push them off the back of sight with the scouting arrow out as well. They're just going to swarm onto this C site. Cypher, Dimisak for the worst players. Holding in mid, will be looking for those rotates, but the retake has to come through now as the spike goes down after an effective push onto C.
I'm looking at the Cypher, which I believe would be Pora. He's sort of in a lurking role on this attack. Never mind, actually, that's Dimisic, like you sort of mentioned. But this is a bloodbath already on this site. The spike hasn't been diffused just yet. You can see a nice bit of control from worst players that know exactly where the enemies are coming from. They go for the double peek, and they narrowly get those kills. Worst players in the attack go 1-0 up.
Fantastically done. I mean, it was a really nice takeover towards that C site. They used that flashpoint. They drew aggression over towards A. Really, the downfall of that round was Paura getting taken down on A main. So pushing out aggressively did not pay off for the defense.
Interesting lineup. Still learning about the players. The roster's changed a little bit for Team Turkey. But we have seen a lot from these players before. I love that there's a player called Turco for the Turkey team. It's like a sort of Pokemon thing. Like, I am Turco from Turkey. I bet that's so fun to say. I don't know how you say that in actual like Turkish language, but it must roll off the tongue like that.
Turkish Turco, I suppose. Let's go with that. Up close and personal in mid again. Sage has pushed all the way up. Will be holding face pretty close, but there's a triple peak here. If they do actually push into this, it might prove to be pretty disastrous as they have heavily stacked the B site on the defense.
It's a gamble to say the least, and it might pay off. Even if they could just get this gun off Chihuahua, that'd be good enough. Speaking of which, Chihuahua is nuts. He's probably one of the best Sages out there and did pretty well in the G2 tournament that finished up this week. Chihuahua played in it, Arch didn't do so well, but was still involved. Pipson too, all three of these players are part of a big celebration of EU talent and really shut themselves off. Certainly Chihuahua is the best Sage in the region.
Well, over to C site again, the rest of his team. are going to be taking their presence. And I think once more they're going to find it. But that's a nice little peek out in towards mid. And that's going to be a gun found for the defense. Potentially looking for this retake here as they take control of garage from both window and double doors. They're sending it back just a little bit, but the cam is really nicely placed there to spot it out. But they just drop that Molotov, pop the shock darts in, and really make it tricky here. The retake almost impossible.
These have been fairly long rounds, it feels like. We're still only in the second round, but this is just time that worst players are making work for them. It's patient play, and they're going to see the whole lineup. That Cyber Kid's dropping at the perfect time. Just the one left. It's just going to be the Brimstone, and he's going to be a Lone Ranger as the Spike is going to defuse it. Well, defuse, it's going to deploy, sorry. And it is going to put worst players 2-0 up. I'd say that they're the favourites to win this one, but Team Turkey have surprised quite a lot of people in the tournaments that they have played in. Let's see what else they can do.
Absolutely, but that was a rifle saved over by Turco on the defense, and that's going to help their economy incredibly well. It means that they can buy an operator into this round whilst dropping across another rifle. They can invest that, and hopefully they'll be able to get some picks. You can see he's currently situated over towards C and B connector.
No armor though, such a big dedication. And he's playing it relatively safe. He's on the C site because it's been hit so often, so he's like, right, I'm going to stop it this time. Ironically, people go A. It's going to be spotted by Rip, who's playing it rather aggressively and trying to bait. Even has the EXE Vandal, so they've either been playing a lot or spent a bit of money.
So a lot of damage found on towards the Brimstone. Nicely done by Rip to open things up. They can heal it, but Breach also took a little bit of punishment there, as well as Cypher tickled. And that's a really good start for the defense. And the shock dart not really going to make up for it, Ryan.
This is working out quite well for Team Turkey. They have an understanding where they are. Time is waning for worst players, but they're still making their way up incrementally onto A. Surprised that none of Team Turkey have pushed for intel, really. You can see the race pushed up on C, but they haven't taken mid. They could spot this out, and they're gonna run into danger a little bit, and they get peeked out.
Oh, luckily for them, they're able to go for the trade. They're going to be able to take down Sage, finds another spray, and they go 2 for 2 on the trade. Cypher and Sage both falling down now, so the retake needs to come through. Spike moving up A short, looking to plant on towards the site as they have control of pretty much the whole thing, raising up on the wall, and might find a cheeky little off angle here as they go for this post-plant position.
Still 30 seconds left on the clock. This has all been Team Turkey's undoing, I feel. They didn't need to push that, but now they've got a bit of a tall mountain to climb to try and get this retake back in. Chihuahua's got rather aggressive placement, hiding behind a Sage wall. This can easily catch somebody out that's peeking across, but Turco flanks in nicely. Yet again, all sorts of guns and battles going on. There's a 1v1.
Operator in hand. This is the big investment. You said it was a risk, Ryan, but it's going to pay off. Mitez able to find that final frag, and I think he just about has enough time to get the defuse on the Spike. First round on the board for the defense now.
Really good retake. Maybe it's just on the C side that they're struggling a little bit. It was a bit dangerous for Miltes to be making that much distance, like holding onto the site, pillar humping the main box on A with an operator. But it certainly wasn't something that worst players were expecting. And he got 2 frags that round. So maybe he is just the great operator player doing quite a lot of work, but still behind when it comes to kills, as Pipson's had the better start out of everyone. Worst players could still buy. They're not going to be too concerned about this, considering Pipson has the orbital strike ready to go as well.
Going to slow it down at the start of the round. Aggression towards A has really been the downfall of this defense, I'd say, here, Ryan. For Team Turkey, I think they might need to rethink that. But B site aggression is going to be on the cards. No one really holding close. However, B pretty easy to retake as they do push through. They want to double peek out of this smoke. Flashpoint over the top will be zoning them away. Goes for one. Turco lands the shot, but it's traded out by Dimasic as they scout out towards C connector, immediately getting that spike down. Breach pushing all the way out. Will spot the Sage behind the wall. In comes the orbital strike and will trade it out. Cypher zoned off as well.
He's just buying his time. There are 2 members coming across. Qrax, great shot in, apart from the other side, is able to get these frags. Now it's just a Sova that's completely off site. Duno has quite a lot of work to do to try and get the flank around, but Miltes, with another kill with the operator, means that it goes all even here. Worst players I think had more time and area to control on the different anchor sites. Going B there kind of felt like it was just falling into Turkey's trap a little when they have two players either side that can beat these engagements and also get some pretty nutty headshots.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the risk you take when you go for that B site. And on the defensive side, it's often better than not to play for retake on B site, because there's just so many places you could be. If they invest all 5 players onto that push, they have no control over A long, no control over C long, and they can completely surround you. It's so hard to lock it down when you don't have that Sage wall blocking off an angle, when you don't have that sort of control over the ground.
And it's important to take enemy areas off the map. If you take A, you want to push as much as possible. B, you just can't do that. It's too dangerous. Rip starts off getting first blood on this round towards A and can even add a couple more. Oh, he's on his way to an ace. It's just going to be the silver left, and he gets it. Man, don't write off Team Turkey. They are a scary lineup.
Jeez, okay, 5 kills, just rapid on the trot, and that's going to do wonders for their economy, right? Because they didn't lose a single player. That was an eco round, to be fair, I believe, for the attack, so they were down on their luck. This will be their rifle round. He cleans it up, gets those eco frags nonetheless, and some pretty nutty headshots at range.
And these are both teams that I think us, like, we haven't seen them in many tournaments recently. There's a couple of instances, but for the most part, we haven't seen them as often as Hip. We haven't seen them as often as Fish123 or Prodigy or anybody of that caliber. But that certainly means that a lot of this talent that we could see today has been relatively undiscovered, and there's certainly a lot of organizations looking for that undiscovered talent. And these are two rosters that work together quite nicely. And I think we're seeing that in the play for both sides currently.
Aggression towards A site this time around. I mean, we've seen this before, but only after they get those opening picks, and no aggressive push on the A short. However, Rip will spot it out. Emboldened by last round's ace. We'll see if he's able to do more. A minute left on the clock, and he drops down that slow orb, which is going to really halt the push here coming out for the worst players. They are going to peek nonetheless. The wall is still available, and I think they're just going to invest it here. Waiting for them to push up and try and stop the angle, but Dimmerstick checks it, caught with the orb in hand, and that's the opening crack they were looking for. Rip goes down, but in comes the Hunter's Fury to try and trade. 2-3 found now on this push for the defense as the retake comes through, but Pipson equalizes us up as he gets shut down by a shock arrow from the sky.
There's a hell of a shock ball all the way from downtown. Now the showstop's going to be used. It didn't quite work. Didn't really matter. Arch just walks out into no man's land and just accepts his death, I think. That was all to do with Turbo Turco. He was the one that was able to get a triple kill as people pushing on that site. But man, if you're Rip, you're wondering if you sort of fed for your team a little bit there. That could have been disastrous for them. Had the right idea with a wall, but Dimmerstick just knew that that was a likely possibility. Guessed right and got the wall bang headshot. You can't say fairer than that. But it does mean that Team Turkey are pulling ahead a little bit.
He should have been, I mean, he had the protection of the Cypher. I think if he'd played a little bit further back, not quite so close to the opening, he might have been able to stay hidden. But as soon as that shoulder peaks, you should be dropping that wall, and potentially even before that, if you have an inkling that players are there. So I think you're right. I think Rip just a little bit late on that, and needs to be faster on the trigger next time.
Let's make some chaos.
I understand because it's such a big bit of utility that you don't just want to throw it out unnecessarily, but yeah, you're right. There's a limit where you can sort of take the mickey with using that kind of important ability. Q-Rax, though, Shunin Miltes isn't the only operator player on this site. Knows that C is going to be hit. The Resurrect is a big dedicated for worst players. They have 4 other ultimates too, so they have everything on board. But it's how they use them from now that's going to be integral to them getting this round, which they kind of need.
Quite crucially as well, they invested the wall for that. That means they can't shut off the short with anything except for the molly. They can't block towards the back of sight. A lovely pair of ultimates coming out. Will find one and get spotted out by the dart, but it's not going to phase him. The spray down and 2 found on the round before he gets shut out, of course. That Resurrect did come through earlier. They're just going to get displaced by the Hellfire, but fortunately for them, just sit back in. A nice pre-fire, though, onto the angle, the corner underneath the plateau, and has to peek out a little bit wider. But no double peek coming through from the defender spawn. They are going to be able to hold on to it for now.
You see, executes have been really good for worst players. A lot of worst for where people, a lot of ultimates still available. Rip having the resurrect on the defense is a good one to bring back the numbers, but it's so hard. Look at where everybody died. Pora's going to make some space for himself. Rip can't do the same towards tunnels.
Ooh, but he's going to find a second as well. The headshot is in. Knows where both of these remaining players are. They know there's just one left, and we're down to 1 versus 1. The spike is being picked. He's going to try and stick it, but the spray is there. Pulls out the classic. Does not have time, and a successful post plant coming through for worst play.
He got the headshot through the cyber cage. That was nuts, and just stalled for the right amount of time. Was to try and catch the Cypher. Was on the right-hand side. Was quite rightly not going to peek that. As I mentioned before, Chihuahua has been one of those players that I've had the opportunity to cast, and you don't often see the Sages top fragging like crazy, unless it's Scream, of course, but Chihuahua's really shown that he's strong in this role and integral to this lineup, and there's CIS teams across the scene currently that are really making waves, but I think Worst Players doesn't really get the credit. Chihuahua, especially, is a player that doesn't get the credit. Surprised to see him at 2 and 6.
See if he's able to do himself a little bit prouder. But currently the round's sat at 4 and 3, so pretty even so far. But a nice start for the attackers finding 3 rounds. Again, they're investing pressure over towards B, Ryan, and we saw how it panned out for them last time. Not too sure if they're going to be able to do it again, but once more, they go for the flashpoint double peek, and Turco gets displaced. No Hellfire, no orbital strike to be able to stop them this time around. And in fact, the Hunter's Fury for the attackers is going to help them marshal their forces over towards that B site. But look at that. This is what we were talking about before. The double flank is now behind, and they get a free frag for it.
I know exactly where you
Neural Theft is dedicated. That's a lot of intel that Worst Players have available to them on this B side to keep things cleared up. Pora is still making waves, but can only do so much as one player. The attackers clear off the remaining members, and we're for all wall squared. There really isn't too much to separate these sides at all. I'm quite impressed with both of them.
It looked a little bit hairy there for the attackers, but they finally managed to get that round. And
This is a nice spot.
I was surprised to see the flank getting dealt with so effectively. It felt like that should have been a done and dusted deal there, but maybe if they'd held a little bit more passive, allowed their players on the side to push in earlier, then they wouldn't have had that sort of crossfire falling back. So we'll see if they're able to get a little bit better of a defense and put something together for round number 9.
The Mystic taking an aggressive camera to spot if anybody's going to peek him. They could use this to their advantage. Rip doesn't want to get pushed, but knows that there's going to be more coming. Backs off. Gives them a bit more respect than we've seen in previous rounds, at least, being caught out there or trying to take engagements there. This is patient for Worst Players. They're putting a lot of pressure on A to the point that 3 people are now stuck there. But look at the Silver and Brimstone on attack. They're just using all of this space and see what they can do with any aggressive pushes out the defense.
A minute left, and Rip this time, he's still a little bit too close to the corner. He's learned his lessons. He tucks himself away, but puts the wall down and isn't going to invest it just yet. However, he doesn't get caught out this time. Crushes the final block of that wall underneath him. So he will not be boosted up, but the wall is down nonetheless. And with 40 seconds, this is a reposition potentially coming out.
You have a bit of time to work with, can move away. It's a really good job for Turkey that have stacked this A site and made sure that it's near enough impenetrable. It's put off Worst Players who are going to rotate all the way around to C. There are players meeting them there too, but the longer they take, the less time they have for the execute. Chihuahua's going to lure. But the execute's going to come in with a showstopper on the defense.
There we go. They're just going to be able to find it. Still caught in the orbital strike. Did not get out in time, and that's 3 kills quickly racked up on the attack. It's going to allow the one to sight. Did get there in time, and the retake was not in, but Pora already finding the first shot. This guy is a madman on these retakes towards C, and Rip able to convert. Chihuahua wants to go for the pre-fire spray. Half defused already, but it's not going to phase him. Headshot through the corner. And 5 rounds now for the attackers.
He really did come to the rescue just then, because he was lurking on A. As soon as the rest of Team Turkey started moving over, he was like, oh, I need to get over there to help. Was just running in behind them, trying to catch up. So I was really worried when that defuse was coming in for Turkey, because Chihuahua was on B. He was just legging it, trying to get back to halt it. But like I mentioned, he is a great player, keeps his composure and clutches, wins out yet another one. Worst Players narrowly winning. We are getting into halftime soon, but this attack has been decent from them. Team
have the
Turkey
spike.
may want to do it a little bit better.
I mean, that's the idea behind it, behind every game. I imagine do a little bit better and keep winning, don't die. You know, that's the kind of the great tenets of gaming. But they'll start their offensive this time around. Will get spotted out. Flashpoint completely blinded at the back of sight. However, they
And
still
again.
are able to find the frag onto Dimasic as Mitez just demolishes that push. 4 kills on the round. They turn the corner and 1 by 1. They're knocked down like Skittles to a bowling ball. Mitez does not stop.
They're getting much better at holding off C, that's for sure. Great play. They sort of dealt with the aggressive push that was coming out of Arch on the breach, the double flashes. There was no panicking from Team Turkey. They kept their composure and caught worst players off guard, surprisingly. Both teams could still buy. We are getting into the penultimate round of this half, and there's only a few ultimates available. Hunter's Fury for both sides, and the Resurrect for Rift. I'm curious to see if much of this gets used. The Sun Arrow is going to be dedicated by Mitez early.
Revealing area.
See what worst players try and do here.
Trading out wide, Rip trying to find those headshots that he could spot on the eco ace,
Enemy.
but not really able to spot it out. A nice tag found with the owl drone, and I don't think he even managed to land that one, but will spot it out again. Hits the second to follow it up. Nicely done there, and taking the Sage out with the Resurrect, crucially Ryan as well. So they have no Resurrect available into this round.
Just got to deal with the 4 of them. At least the West players are hoping. Scanning out a lot of information, but
Revealing
Mitez is going to
area.
find out a little bit
Found
more.
them.
Knows that there's a few people now in garage. Tries to wallbang, but I think the information is more important than the frag necessarily there, as Team Turkey maneuver around a little bit and try to confine West players into this room.
They try and step on a C site, and there's a Vandal pointing their way, no matter which way they're peeking. They're down to 2 now on this attack. Flashpoint to blind the back of sight, but a nice 180 and back will give them a chance. Bora able to find 1, and Turco converts it for the second as well. Nicely done on the retake. It feels like Team Turkey have figured out this defense.
Which is good, really, if your worst players, if they've been figured out, because they're going to be defended next too, and maybe they are much stronger there. But what I really like about Team Turkey, and I'm not saying this because the majority of chat seems to be Turkish and supporting the team, but everybody seems to be showing up. Granted, keep it in English, but we do love you guys. You are certainly
Let
some of the
us
best
hunt.
fans out there when it comes to a team. But I think it's more the country. But it's everybody on Team Turkey's impressing me.
Revealing
Granted,
area.
Mitez is running away with the most frags right now, but everybody's showing up when they need to. Good ultimates, good use of abilities, teamwork, and agents, and good operator play.
Bomb buddy out.
That's such a crucial pick as well. That was the ultimate there for the breach,
You
which
will
means that they
not
have to
kill
invest the
my
res
ally.
if they want to use that. So no res for later in the round after this push comes through. They do have the Hunter's Fury as well to clear other angles, so this is still mounting up for a very successful attack.
Yeah, and maneuvering around, Chihuahua's now playing that lurk role. Might be why he's been so successful, because he just likes to go off on his own. Of course, you can heal yourself if you take any damage. But I think Team Turkey keeping a very keen eye on this. Very happy to take engagements from distance. Turco's going to try and line up the headshot as he's going to meet multiple people. See how he does.
Goodness me.
Smoke's down.
Able to rip Pipson's head off, and they have no orbital strike as well. They were able to accrue that one with the ultimate orb that they got on C Long, but with no res now, that's another ultimate taken off the cards. And when you've got Showstopper, Orbital Strike, and the Resurrect as well available on the defense, you can hold down pretty effectively, and another reposition comes through. 25 seconds and they want B site.
This isn't really that ideal when there's an orbital strike on this defense. They're just going to plant it as soon as they hear the spike drop to the bottom of the ground.
Found them.
So they're patient. It's going to delay them enough that it's going to force them out, flushes them out a little bit, and I don't think this plant's going to be able to come in.
You will not kill
Dunno
my
gets shut
ally.
down. They have the Resurrect as well. Showstopper invested. Last round of the half, and they throw everything at the wall, and it seems to all be sticking. 7-5 on the half for the Turkish defense. They hold strong, but it's their turn to attack.
I would imagine that they'd be set up quite nicely for this. I like their composition, and it's straightforward. They have the initiator in. And I think for both teams, from what I've seen, they don't like to push the boat out there by running agents like Reyna or going too crazy with an operator jet. Especially worst players, they pretty much run this lineup everywhere and all of the time. So they're very much experienced, knowing their roles, knowing how to play these agents. But that in itself could be kind of exploited,
Right here.
I feel.
Right here.
Pistol round now on the cards, and looks like a lot of ghost investment coming through for Team Turkey. You've got a similar kind of setup with a little bit more armor over on the worst players, so we'll see what sort of utility they're able to throw out. It just does get revealed. They will have the info of a player near towards grass, and the owl drone now released. Of course, they already know where he is, so, you know, fair enough. Try and get all the information you can from this area of the map.
Turkey feeling like they have all the time in the world. Dimasic is a bit more impatient now. Scuffs his shots and it's going to get chased down, but you know, so the majority of people are towards A, and the Silver's going to be there in tow to help out. Tuna, we haven't seen too much of him. The Sun Arrow, the Recon Bolt is going to be used to try and catch people out, but yet again, Turkey being really patient on their executes here. Don't imagine that's going to last forever, though.
Oh no, this is so unfortunate here for worse players. They're rotating away from A and the stack can come through. However, there's only 42 seconds, and
No
with
more charges
Dimasic
left.
there, you know he can land the headshots. And unfortunately, the sky smoke is going to block off the vision from heaven, maybe trying to pre-fire those angles, but they get onto site early. Aftershock not quite able to connect there, sorry, the fault line. So they will now have to go for the retake. Spike not yet planted, but it's going down any moment now.
A lot of space given up from worst players. The retake's going to be an awkward one. Pora is trying to take an off angle and has a nice camera to get up some intel. All of worst players pretty much coming from the same direction, peeking out, getting the first pick onto Pora, flushing out more angles. It's going well so far, but Team Turkey are playing bait here, I feel.
A nice aftershock to zone them out the back of heaven, and this retake so far going very, very well, but unfortunately, there's still two more players to deal with. Arch, able to find two. There's the fault line. Arch to try and zone them back in, but another player on long, and it's going to be 1 versus 2. Lands the shots, but not to the head, as it is raised to shut it down. First round found for Team Turkey on the pistol.
Really good execute there. Patient from Team Turkey. They took control of the site, knew where they wanted to hold, and knew as time went on that they needed to sort of run away from the site, make it difficult for worst players to confirm kills and get the defuse in time. But in the end, just won out the engagements. Really nice spell. I was expecting worst players to be the better team in here, honestly. They've had much more success, certainly over the last couple of weeks. But Team Turkey have come out straight fire today, and I'm really impressed in how they've just been playing as a lineup and how confident they are with their aim, especially.
They showed presence over towards A, they committed, they made it happen, and they gathered all the info they needed. Maybe a little bit jumpy for worse players, though. I mean, they over-rotated away from A pretty early into that round without really any info at all. The only thing they gathered, I think, was the spot on towards Sova near grass early in. The owl drone sounds will give away Sova's presence, but there's definitely refrag potential. Chihuahua wants to peek, spots 2. And that's a lot of information gathered. I believe the spike was seen as well, and they can fall back and rotate away from now.
Starting to push in. Archer's wanted to try and stun people. He's going to run right into danger. No fear, but misses his shots much like the last round. He's having a torrid time. And a lot of space yet again controlled by Team Turkey, who are pushing the boat out even further.
Trying to knife away the wall. Picking it out and actually able to pick a shot. But Dimasic, the heal comes through from Rip as Dunno is shut down on the sidelines. Now it's just Dimasic with the Ghost looking for exit frags and doesn't have any armor, so really this is a throwaway round for them. It was already just that eco round, so they'll be buying up into the next.
It's still rounds that you're giving away at the end of the day. It means that there's so much now riding on this 15th round now that we're starting to go into it. And worst players have had a bit of a torrid time recently. Like the last sort of 6 or 7 rounds have pretty much gone to Team Turkey, and they're struggling to find a way back into it and making a lot of mistakes along the way too.
Yeah, it's the openings being found, but now it's 9-5 to Team Turkey, and they are starting to end out this lead. Hopefully on the rifle round, this is where worst players can pull together and make sure that they are getting those kills on board. They have range advantage, they have the firepower advantage as well, they just need to convert it.
Just need a little bit of luck on their side too. Get first blood in a round or something might be able to turn the tide to a little bit. But I think Team Turkey are making it really difficult. They're not overextending. Every push and engagement they make is so careful. And they only put themselves out into danger when they're ready to explode onto a site. West players just need to not dedicate too much utility to stop pushes, as really Team Turkey are taking it so passively. How can you slow down a team that isn't moving?
It's it's pretty tricky, and I get to reduce you can reduce a number by a factor of 10, but if that number's 0, it's going to stay the same. You're exactly right, Ryan. I think it's going to be pretty tricky, but looks like over towards C site they are finally going to get their stone rolling. Whether or not it gathers moss though after they stop it is another thing entirely.
Well, even then, they looked on C long, they were trying to expose it, Pipson spotted them out, and they rotated away. The issue now is if they go to the B site, like I said before, it's such an awkward site to push onto, and there's multiple members of worst players surrounding it. Chihuahua's going to be super aggressive through double doors. Team Turkey, you need to be careful!
Wow.
Arch!
No way! He's just better be able to flick for 2, but not quite able to find the 3rd. Nearly made up for his mistakes in the previous round, but does fall in the meantime. However, the rest of the team is still going to hold strong. Everyone wiped off. They convert their rifle round, and at such a crucial time, Ryan.
Because this pacing of the game is so slow, both of these teams need to be super careful with how they approach these executions and stuff. Like, you can't put a foot wrong at all, because you just get punished like that. And explosively, Arch fluffed his lines in a lot of shots already this half, but that double headshot flick was exceptional. More to do though. They do have the Rolling Thunder coming online. There's still more to do. They're still behind, and Team Turkey aren't going to be too phased by that, I don't feel.
They'll be able to buy up into this round as well. So, even Stevens on the equipment. Hang on a minute. Pora's only got a ghost. That's unfortunate for Team Turkey, but looks like they want control of grass. This is their standard opener, right, of the round. They take control of middle. They trap up on the sidelines to make sure that those flanks can't come through. And the Cypher controls the ground, but this time they're going for the fully fledged B-side take. They get it to bounce 3 times, back and forth, waving those crosshairs on the defense, push through the slow. They have breached on towards the site. The spike gets planted early, however, Pora sacrifices his life for it. They do have a Resurrect available, but it's in such a risky spot. I don't know if they're going to want to invest it just yet. Trying to clear out towards Gong, but the headshot lands on towards Mites. 1 falls now as another soon to follow. Rick does get eliminated. 2 players now on the attack. They drop the Molotov on top of the spike, so they zone away this defuse. Pipson, though, finds yet another. They know where this last guy is. They can start to zone him out. However, Turco will not go down without a fight, but is finally displaced from the bottom of mid. Dimasic shuts it down, and the defuse can come through. Chihuahua, the only casualty.
Sort of repeating some of the errors there. I feel like they didn't need to rush that much to go onto the B site. And considering the Arch on the breach is Rolling Thunder, which is exceptional at retaking back the B site, he didn't even need to use it. He considered it, but Juno just came in, engaged, took a lot of space for himself and wasn't punished for it.
This goes here.
Now we're seeing West players find their stride. Both these teams seem to have really bright spells and then sort of fall apart a little bit in a couple. So they're trading really nicely here, and it's a really exciting game to watch, but both these teams looking a bit more nervous as we get into the end game of Haven.
Now, it's all in the hands of worse players, right? If they lose another round, if they take the L, then at this stage, it's looking pretty disastrous. The fact that they can limit the economy is pretty strong, and in fact, that might come back to bite Team Turkey. But it's this 9-round mark where you start to worry about losing any single round.
It's so important to just not have a misstep. And to be fair, nobody's really made some awful mistakes so far. It's just us, waiting too long to put the Sage Wall up. That's the kind of mistake that you can't make. And Hunter's Fury is dedicated very early from mid. Dimasic spots it with the tripwire. This execute's going to come in, but Dimasic is just spotting everybody out.
Goodness me, a huge return on investment. The vision is just incredible. He's sat inside a smoke, but apparently he's got eyes all over the map. The Cypher living up to the agent. And the defenders clean house. Beautiful stuff there. Control from Dimisic, just letting no one step forwards. So many people tried to block that spike, but they were denied.
And they're the kind of mistakes that I sort of mentioned. Really, it was amazing play from Dimisic, but that should never have happened. Team Turkey going onto the site, giving up their positioning. When they know that Dimisic is sat in heaven, got a frag onto your teammate just beforehand. And again, they're just so keen to get that plant in, but just kept making mistakes because of their rush. Just lined up for Dimisic, they just sat in the smoke, saw the outline, and got the frags from it.
Flash out.
Beautifully orchestrated aggression now on a long, and the worst players can try and capitalize on this perceived strength on the defense. We'll see if they're able to rattle Team Turkey here, as they do manage to get a player very, very close on a long, but the bomb buddy might spot out the breach. No, it bounces back. Unfortunately, finds a harsh angle on the wall and will just send straight away. So no scouting done over towards a long.
They have that intel that they're not on A at least, so they don't need to worry about that so much. Arch can hold a bit more aggressively, but the issue is you can't necessarily see down sewer, so a bit of utility being thrown that way for the Silver. Mid is in full control now of Team Turkey. And Chihuahua wants to hold double doors. A relatively quiet game, certainly by his standards. Yet to really show off why I rate him so highly. But right now he's just enjoying a quiet time, knows that the Eldron's going to come through and make sure nobody's coming through double doors.
The Eldron didn't spot him out, didn't tag it, and that's intelligent play coming out to not be able to find him, but the sneaky angle from Arch paying off. However, Turco able to rattle two, and Rip gets the res. So they are up one player on this push. They still have that orbital strike to try and control it, but so does the defense. They stop that spike from getting planted, but Turco picks up a third kill on the round. Now, only Dimisic left. We saw what he could do last time around, but he had the backup of his whole team. He's now 1 versus 2 on this retake, alone as the Cypher.
And they know that he's behind them. He's made quite a lot of noise.
They have orbital strike.
Yeah, they're just going to sort of bide their time. He has neural theft if he can get a frag in, but he knew that that was going to get baited out. Time isn't on his side. He's probably just going to touch it again. And if you need to be careful if you're Team Turkey. Never
You just
mind.
have that Molotov. It's so impossible. Actually misses the Molotov, so if he'd have stuck it, he might have been able to find it. There's a little bit of an opening. As Brimstone, you can just delay that spike diffuse for so long if you have your ultimate. I think total, if you have orbital strike and Molotov up, it's only like a 3 or 4. I think it's like a 5-second window total in which you can actually start the diffuse on the spike and finish it off.
Really? Christ.
It's insane. It's insane.
It shows how well versed Turkey are. They're not like a show match team. I think we've seen that already. You kind of look at them. Oh, they played in the G2 thing as like a setup roster where no real teams played. You go, all right, okay, I know what to expect. But really, they're pushing all expectations. Even in that tournament, they were the underdogs, and here I feel they can win this game, and I think they could beat HIP if given the opportunity. So the French need to be careful. The Turks are in town.
The camera's not quite traded. It looked like they might have been, but again, the bomb buddy is in. Dimisic once again takes up the mantle, moves to the side. Will spot them out with the camera, knows where the showstopper is coming from, fires it up towards heaven. Beautiful instincts there, but in comes the Hunter's Fury. Will trade it 1-for-1. Spike backed off towards a long. They have left Rip over towards the site, actually pushing in, but he didn't quite get the memo that there's a fallback coming through. He's just holding face, looking for those exit frags, and will send away. It looks like they might be going for a full rotate all the way across the map. Will the read be there for worse players? They are currently both one player down, but there is a resurrect available on the defense, and they will invest it here.
Bring about Dimisic. There's not going to be a cops nearby to dedicate the neural theft, but Pipson is well aware. Spots it out. What I mean about patient play, the molly goes down to stop the fight getting planted, and the roll-in for the dedicate from Arch is going to be a great way to extend onto the site. Pipson gets one, but there's still more to do.
Arch will certainly be able to start it off well. Spike not planted, and it's dropped towards the site. Defense have complete control of it, and at this stage, you're really just saving the weapons into the round. Nicely done by the worst players. 10 rounds on the board for Turkey, but they're going to go 10-9 on this one as there's no time left on the round. Only Rip left standing, and they want to find that one as well. Unfortunately, he's able to land the first shot. Chihuahua, though, closes it down. They lose 1 player total, and that's a successful hold for the worst players.
really close between these guys. Even the frags, there isn't too much apart. Just Team Turkish seems to be a lot more aggressive. Everybody seems to have higher frags and pound for pound on worst players. But I think worst players much more defensive orientated this time. They haven't really had the opportunity to completely shine individually. But I feel that they're stemming the flow a little bit from Turkey. The aggressive nature is over, and yet again, they have to be careful. They've got pistols now, so there's no false moves here.
Aggressive towards A long as well. I mean, they did spot out how Rip was able to clean them up on an eco, so maybe they want to find it as well. Over towards Grass, though, as we were saying before, this is Turkey's standard opener to try and take control of the bottom of mid. Activating the trap wire over towards B doors is actually really huge. It's going to allow them to push in just a little bit more effectively and create a little bit more worry.
They are waiting for this Sage Wall to expire. Chihuahua's even giving up this space and may want to play an off angle on C. They're really not expecting them to just wait outside this. So all of their positioning's giving up. Chihuahua's aware of it. Slow's a good one. But this is really awkward if you're these three defenders on C site, because you could just get overwritten towards the back where Archer's looking.
You need to land the shots, but they're going to change it up and go back to B. They took down the trapwire early, but Dimasic wants to see if he can find a little bit more, missing the sprays time and time again, and finally pays the price for it. However, it's traded to in kind, and a few more found. Chihuahua gets one, but the Frenzies and the Sheriffs are there as well. 2 versus 1 now, as it is 2 players alive on the defense. No matter what, though, this is a successful round for the attack. They've managed to do a lot of damage here to the economy. They'll have to reinvest heavily on the side of worst players.
Damage has been done, but it's not over just yet. Mites knows that he just needs to get the frags in order to win this one. He's going to put more pressure onto Arch. Can he actually get the frag within 6 seconds? Unfortunately, Duno manages to not die in that scenario. That would have been a disaster. But it brings the scores levels. Both teams are able to buy, and there's a couple of ultimates that are online now, and no doubt will be as the round progresses.
10 all, as both teams should be able to full buy. However, we talked about how it was a really strong limit on the economy for Team Turkey, and you could see that coming through. And in fact, they're all pretty much down on their luck. This is a crucial round here, Ryan. To convert this for worst players would be absolutely phenomenal.
Well, it'd be great for either side, really. These are the rounds you look back at. If you want highlights, that is a kill that really is so important to how this game is looking to go. The neural theft is dedicated to, and that allows Dimasic to get even more frags. Team Turkey is stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Oh, goodness me. Dimasic finds yet another. Turco finally able to trade it back, but the damage is done. 3 players have died on Team Turkey, and worse players. They have 4 alive versus 2. The Brimstone on Team Turkey very, very low as well. So finding these openings is going to be nigh on impossible. This is a really good turn up for worse players.
The tempo is slowed down entirely to a dead silence. Chihuahua is going to be the first to engage on these surviving members of Team Turkey. You're going to keep an eye out, but you can see on the minimap just how careful, like, incremental these movements are. But Chihuahua sort of allows them free passage. Pipsum is there waiting. He's going to be the one to sort of meet them over on the C site. The rest of worst players, as we're seeing, are rotating around to try and help. Miltes is in a 1v1 engagement, but Chihuahua's able to win it out. And that does put, quite rightly, worst players on top, considering they had a blistering start right at the beginning of that round.
Yeah, they're able to get a really nice push on A long. That seems to be the ace in the hole for worst players, and Team Turkey just haven't seen how to counter it just yet. It's coming back to bite them pretty harshly there. I mean, they haven't been throwing those raid nades down on those pushes. They haven't been trying to zone anything away, and just pushing out of those cyber cages, really not going their way. Unfortunately, Team Turkey may be a little bit overzealous there, but 11 rounds now found and down to Bulldogs for Team Turkey.
Really chomping at the bit to try and get something back on the scraps that they have. It's even more of a disaster if they lose this round, because they'd have to just force yet again going into match point for worst players, who right now, pound for pound, they've looked pretty similar. But towards the end, I think worst players have that experience, and Team Turkey's aggressive playstyle is waning just a little bit.
Ooh.
Need to be careful.
He's hopping about, and Does get the heal in the end, but no armor for Rip as well, so they're going to be easily shredded with just a couple body shots from Pipson, or a headshot indeed at range, which is really the downfall that you see for the Phantom. It's great on the sprays, but if you don't land the headshot, it's only 140. It's just 146. But that's not going to matter. 1 for 1 so far. Huge flashpoint coming through to allow Mitez to find one, but it's traded out for a second as well for Mitez. And now they're 3 versus 3. Sage still alive, but in comes the Rolling Thunder. Not before the spike gets planted. They're spotted out towards Defender Spawn, not dismounting that dart either. Dunno plays close, knows there's a player in the corner, needs to be careful. And they double peek onto the angle. 2 players playing on long, and they have got that recon bolt as well. That's going to spot them both out, but Mitez doesn't get seen. They ping the spike, spots 2 out, waits for it, holding it down. Nicely done, Dunno able to find a second. Mitez is going to be able to get that 3K, and Rip finds another now. 1 versus 2. Needs to try and hold the defuse, but no, he's going to hold the angle instead. Taps it again, they think he's going to go for it. The spray down at range, and the Classic is pulled out. Doesn't have time to go for the spike, picks up a replacement Phantom, finds the frag, but loses the round.
Oh, that was so good from Team Turkey. Just the Hunter's Fury, the buy for time, even just spacing out the shots just to delay it as much as possible. It really looked that they were so far off the site that there was no way that they could stop that defuse, but it was played perfectly. And they needed to have that kind of 900 IQ play in order to bring them back in it there. That could have been disastrous, and this really is going to the depth.
This goes here. Yes, this should do.
Operator back in the hands of Dunno, and it's 11-11. Everyone on the full rifles, so they'll be able to have a decent shout into this round. And again, a lot of pressure invested over towards this ultimate orb on A long for the defensive worst players.
But already we're seeing Team Turkey make their way into sewers, and I don't think the worst players are aware that they've taken that space. But they need to just be very careful in how they dedicate space and time to this. I've been too aggressive. A tripwire has tripped up an owl drone, but that's all it's caught. But it's forced Dimisic away from the site, meaning that it's just going to be Sova Duno, the only one there to try and take on this engagement.
Does have 1 trap to play around on site, but is going to get the corner turned on him. The spray not quite there. The bomb buddy spotting him out as well, but that's going to force the full stun onto Cypher. Fault line does hit Turco, but doesn't stop the plant from going through. And now it's into the post plant. Worst players, 4 players alive. They do have a res, but to get that position is going to be so hard. Oh, nicely avoided there on the aftershock, but Urax able to hold it down for now, displacing from the sidelines. In comes the showstopper, doesn't manage to land the kill, and throws the paint shell as well. Forces Dimisic to peek, and nicely found the kill there. Was not able to get the trade. Now 3 players alive, and I think the worst players, they're falling back. They want to save for the final round.
Team Turkey are giving chase. They know how important it is to punish that kind of thing. It's not likely at this point, but God, like a good execute, really punishing a bit of a mistake of worst players. Certainly Dimisic just running off the site thinking that stuff was happening on B, when it was really only just an owl drone that tripped up the wire. It had like a butterfly effect, but holding off that retake from Team Turkey was exceptional. The way they played, how they used abilities and ultimates to force worst players through that choke. Even when they dedicated big ultimates, they just couldn't even get onto the site. Never mind defuse the spike, but it puts them on match point, and this is insane from both these teams, but Team Turkey have been exceptional. I'm so impressed.
Yeah, they really have had some standout rounds, but they have been caught unawares once or twice, so we'll see what they're able to continue to achieve. If anything, we'll have to wait and see. Worst players have had some pretty corking rounds as well, Ryan.
It's just, again, towards the end, they were much more cautious, a bit more cold and collected, which like the CIS region tends to be. They seem to suit this game pretty well. But just Turkey have just upped it on a gear, and also just had some amazing individual plays. Maybe not so much with frags, but how they use utility and ultimates, how they bait stuff out. West players haven't got that level of coordination, it feels like. They're not too far behind. They really need to step it up a notch if they want to win this, or most importantly not lose it, I guess.
The B site trap is still there. Oh no, I spoke too soon. The shock dart able to get rid of that, and there's so many times where this trap has been just destroyed straight away early on, and in fact, it might be an idea in future games, though, unfortunately, worse players to move that trap to a different location, try and get some more value out of it, because at the moment they're really not finding anything. It's not even giving them information, because of course it's just getting killed, no matter where they're going. But it seems like A site on the cards, and there is a trap towards A short. Dunno is there. Here's that blast pack and spots them out. Beautifully done. Will try and get the second tag, and it's Dimmersing to shut them down from heaven, but it's traded 2 for 2. Still around the corner, it's Duddo, but he's shut out as well by Rip. But they only have 3 seconds. Did they manage to get the spike down in time? Spike carrier got killed, and that's the defense win. They bring it even, despite getting all the kills. There's no time left.
Oh,
they lose the round.
That's so narrow and so important too. The Team Turkey had a couple of ultimates available to use. Wanted to use it obviously to hold off the retake, but because that never got to happen, all of those ultimates are nullified as we go into overtime. If Turkey lose this, they're gonna be, you know, crying their hearts out, because that was like down to the wire, minuscule mistakes, but well played from worst players. By the skin of their teeth, sure, but Dimmersik just putting them off enough that the spike couldn't get planted. It was really awkward for Team Turkey to try and bring that back. They have a bit more time to decide what they're gonna do here. But man, I didn't expect it to be this close.
That was so unfortunate right at the end as well. I mean, they just didn't get onto site in time. They spent too much time waiting. See, that trap has been relocated now. They're both invested over towards the A site, and they know that they can hold it down. They're going to have some success.
And this is the best of one, so as much as I'd love to see these guys go up against each other for another round, it all relies on this. And really, it is Turkey versus CIS. And they've been so aggressive on this A site, explosive on these executes, but can they do the same here again?
They are going to once more try to go for the site, and they've just not shut down Dimmersik in heaven at all. Gets spotted out by the dart there as well, but the spike gets planted nonetheless. 4 versus 5 now. No ultimates available, remember, because it is overtime. He just stayed there. He only took 1 lick of damage. That is unfortunate. Able to get the spy dart in as well. Shot dart will be able to spot him out, but Kurak's able to land the headshot onto Dimmersik. The retake now coming through in a 4 versus 4.
You can see the Team Turkey are a bit nervous and not quite sure which direction to look, but the majority of worst players all coming from one direction. It doesn't matter though, they're not the ones getting the frags. Turco from Turkey make sure that Team Turkey goes up into the finals against Hip Hip Hip. A hell of a game between these two sides.
Really nicely done there from Turkey, but we saw there were a couple of moments where they were caught unawares, where they didn't quite have the impact that maybe they wanted to have, and they'll need to try and buckle up for their match against Hip.
And that's a best of 3 too, so they want to make sure that they reserve themselves, not peak too early, not put all of their eggs into this game and really peter out as the night goes on. But man, what an impressive attempt, really. Like, I saw the team lineups for this, and it's like, all right, it's going to be worst players versus Hip Hip Hip, but you know, there's still a lot to see from all of these sides, and goes to show that even though we aren't seeing much of worst players or Team Turkey in your G2 tournaments, the other tournaments going on at the moment, they're practicing, you know, behind the curtains, under the radar, and they're really pulling it back. I could see them beating Hip. I could see them giving them a really good go. But this is a great opportunity for Hip to show that they are above these teams and they should be considered some of the best players in the EU region.
I mean, they took the throne last week from Fish 1-2-3, and they have to try and hold on to it this time around. We are going to head to a short break, I believe, and when we come back, we will have that best of 3 final, Ryan, to see if these new challengers can take down Hip Hip Hip, or if they can hold on to that throne. It all remains to be seen right after the break.